Got it. Alright. I don't want to scare anybody today. I just might be a little more happy-go-lucky than usual because this is my favorite part of the channel. Now, you probably, if this is your first day watching this channel and wondering why I'm indoors with an umbrella, you're probably a tad bit confused. Shout out to my new subby. I'm so sorry I forgot your name. But that is because after news reporting on this stuff and coping with mental illnesses and just giving a little tidbits of information here and there, like I promised, I was going to start the education piece. So I just wanted to give you guys a background with the dumb jar and asking dumb questions, the insensitive ones, and the coping videos with exercising and different suggestions, mental health 101, different things going on in the community. Now that I have your attention, we can start with the education piece of it all. That's what it takes. We don't need any more, stereotypes and bias and discrimination. There's enough of that out there. Channel 5 News does a really good job, but what about the good 90-something% of us who are functioning? Okay, like folks used to tell me before I got diagnosed, girl, you can't get in and out the rain. What is wrong with you? First off, mental illness is not the same. It's not synonymous with cognitive or developmental delays. You could have an IQ of 355 million and still have some sort of mental illness or mood disorder and all of that. Okay, this umbrella's hot. I think you get my point. So basically, those mental illnesses are, it's a medical condition, that affects your everyday life. If you think it does not, ask the people you live with. I'm sure they'll tell you the truth. And it's those extremes in mood. Some of the stuff that I'll say, it'll overlap. But then there are certain illnesses where there are characteristics that are really germane just to that illness. They're kind of similar, but not. But basically, it affects your thinking, your memory, your everyday function, and how you relate to the world, how you perceive, yourself, and a whole lot of other things under the umbrella. So there are tons of categories under this umbrella. I hate for people just to say, it's crazy or other labeling things like nutso and psycho and all of that. Labeling, there we go again. But under the umbrella, there are actually categories. Ding, 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 ding. So oftentimes you have issues with ordinary, everyday functioning and ordinary, everyday demands and things like that. And it's really a diminished capacity for, I think this is a better definition, is a diminished capacity to cope with everyday demands and responses on how what is considered the normal person would do things. So I wanted to throw that out there that everyone on the planet can be affected by a mental illness. It is not just for some or for certain cultures, or you can tell when someone is mentally ill or everyone's just going to snap. That's not the case. It can be hereditary, but again, understand that there's an extreme to this thing. It's the emotional response and how a person thinks that separates mental illnesses from just everyday actions. So, but I wanted to go over some of the things that are more common. So, well, one, there's a difference between mental illness and severe mental illness, or illness and instability. That's what you see on TV a lot. Again, the person that burns down the building and then sits on the rubble singing "It's a Small World After All." Really? That is extreme. Again, that's less than 10%. And the rest of us are just trying to live normal life, living at home, taking care of family, trying to function, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so anxiety disorders. Like what I have, I'm trying my very best to remain medicated and stand still. So anxiety disorders are when you respond to certain things or objects or situations, just as dreadful. And, you have the physical signs of nervousness. And for some reason, it just sets you off to make you uncomfortable. You have the rapid heartbeat, you have the sweating, and a lot of times to others, it may seem unwarranted. There again, that extreme. The physical response for what is not appropriate for the situation. So you have things like generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD. I'll do a whole video on post-traumatic stress disorder. what others may not see or to understand with you. My best friend can walk past the train track and she's fine. No problem. She can wait for the little thingy to go up in the air and the car can come across it. Say someone who is, survived a train wreck or something like that. They see a train and they will go right back to that moment. They'll just get panicky. They'll start having flashbacks. It is, again, that emotional response that may not be appropriate for the situation to everyone else, but to the sufferer, it affects you in a different way because you're reminded of, even if others may not notice, whatever that symptom is, whatever that memory, whatever that trigger is. Reason why it's hence post-traumatic. Even years or days or months afterwards, it is still affecting you. Then there are stress disorders. We get all stressed out. Common to everyone, but with stress disorders, you get stressed out and you get stressed out severely over a whole lot of things. Phobias, you have things like agoraphobia, okay? People just don't want to go out the house, they want to stay inside, they start getting panicky just thinking about having to enter that situation. You may have arachnophobia, fear of spiders, and just all kinds of fears of. And you probably say, well, how is that mentally ill? It is the extreme of it. Someone can hear a dog bark and tell the dog to shut up or give the dog some alpha. I hear a dog bark, I'm going to jump over the counter and I'm going to just sit there until the dog goes away. I am that afraid of animals. I'm afraid of anything that moves or flies. Yeah, anything that moves or flies or swims or used to be alive before it was dinner, I'm scared of it. So there's your anxiety disorders. Mood disorders, Lord have mercy, talk about stereotypes. Sometimes I feel like people who are afflicted or diagnosed or something with mental illnesses are sometimes treated worse by the medical community, people who ought to know better, than those on the outside. I could show up, I'm telling y'all, to the emergency room because my leg fell off in the car and I tripped over it on the sidewalk. Before anyone gives me a stitch, a staple, medicine, and they see anywhere in my documentation that I've been treated for, medicated for, saw a shrink for, somewhere in my past, a psych disorder, that's the concentration right there. No matter what you say, oh, it's just a mood, it's just a stress, she's probably just making it up, maybe some type of disorder, and they will spend the whole 15-20 minutes wondering if you're going to snap. Discrimination there again. So as far as your mood, we have depression. That's pretty much, let me preface this whole thing with, that's going to be a video in and of itself, but I just wanted to go over some things before we start class, boys and girls. A is for anxiety, B is for bipolar disorder, C is for co-occurring illnesses, more than one, D is for depression, all of that. But the thing about depression, people just associate it with sadness. And that's not the case. You can have a smile on your face and really be hiding things. Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy. And no one would know. There's always a guilt factor or shame factor. We got to get used to opening up and talking about things. Or you could be like me, just totally hyper. I'm a closet 3-year-old on Pop Rocks some days, just on a coaster, everywhere. And sometimes it's not triggered by anything. But the thing with illnesses, oftentimes when you're just that erratic, you cannot bring yourself down or not soon enough. And again, that's abnormal to people that are around you. So you cycle back and forth, for example, with bipolar disorder. Everyone's favorite, oh, I just love those conversations. She's bipolar, she's bipolar. What does it mean? Next time somebody calls you bipolar, hold up, get a pen and a piece of paper, hand it to them since they know so much. Ask, what does it mean? Okay, be a little more specific, okay? How does this fit the situation? Everybody wants to be an expert. Then there's dysthymia, which is a mild form of depression. Dysthymic people usually don't cycle back and forth. Folks with bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, you may see a person really, really sad 1 second, 10 seconds later, for patterns. That word goes again. Episodes, just extended periods of time of going back and forth between moods. This here, Diagnostic Statistical Manual. Basically, the DSM is just the Bible for this stuff, where they get all of these categories and diagnoses from. I'm telling you, it's like WIC and food stamps. They come up with something else, in a different name, and what you can associate this with and what insurance will pay for that and all the time. But seasonal affective disorder, it really just depends on that ongoing mood based on seasons. Now, this DSM Bible that shrinks pull names and categories of stuff out of is now calling that, I think, weather influenced, another name, but it's the same thing. Like a lot of people live on, that side of the country, West Coast, Seattle, and all of that. Rainy seasons when it rains all day, every day for months, and people are in the house. They can get seasonally depressed because it's gloomy and it's dark outside. Same thing with winter. I feel bad for people who live in Alaska. The coldness, the temperature, the, isolation of it all, that can leave them depressed as well. Psychotic disorders. That is what you see on TV when people are burning things down, when people are killing kids or molesting this person, chopping folks up, Jack the Rippers, serial killers. That's psychosis. Do not confuse that with the mental illness I introed this video with, because psychosis is that real extreme where the person is said to be dissociative. They're just not connecting with normal, and I'll use that word loosely, reality. Somewhere in their head, how they perceive things, the evil that can come out of folks sometimes is completely different, and it's not what they identify with what's going on with everyone else. It really is an extreme, and that's a whole different category. But another, I guess you can say, disorder under that psychosis piece of the umbrella is schizophrenia. Channel 5 News is not going to make any money if they show people living with these things in a positive light, taking care of themselves, functioning normally.
Anybody remember A Beautiful Mind?
Prime example, John Nash is brilliant. He lives right over in Raleigh. But dude is so smart. His IQ, I don't know, it's like a gabillion. And he lives functionally with schizophrenia. You will never see that on TV. It's not going to make any money, So there's the psychotic disorders. They experience, a lot of folks living with psychosis, they experience, images and sounds and things that are not real, what's called hallucinations.
Sidebar: not everyone diagnosed with schizophrenia hears voices.
Then there are delusions. They just have false beliefs, that an ill person, they have false beliefs that is true in their eyes. And the way that they respond, not just those living with schizophrenia, but say very severely mentally ill people, they just seem to have detached. And then that's where a lot of violence comes from. Sure, people can snap, but again, that's that small percentage. That's not everyone. And then you have things called schizoaffective disorder, affect your mood. That's where you have schizophrenia and a mood disorder, any one of them, at the same time. Okay, so there's your psychotic disorders. Eating disorders. And the most common ones are, anniversary. The most common ones are bulimia and anorexia. And you probably say, well, how is that mental? All of that is behavioral. Behavior, moods, emotions, we're all born with them, and they're interrelated. Most common, again, are anorexia nervosa and bulimia. Now, while they sound similar and it may seem like one big fat contradiction, you have to remember, really, and I keep using this word extreme, how a person perceives themselves so differently from those that are around them. I'm sure you've seen the images of women who are gravely ill, and in a mirror they see themselves as fat. They are preoccupied with their weight and with their shape, and what they can do often, because they feel like they aren't thin enough, they aren't beautiful and all of that, what people with anorexia will do, they will go as far as lying about the weight or how many ounces of food or how much food they've eaten. They will deny the fact that they are hungry. They will go to extremes to lose weight and to stay thin because in their minds they aren't small enough. And this, again, is just a short version. We'll go through A through Z, and if not, you're going into tension. Whoever's sitting there rolling their eyes like this. These are illnesses that can affect everyone.